The fascist far-right party of the Israeli government has obviously made the wrong decision, and they're going to have to deal with it as hundreds of thousands of Israelis protest against the open fascism that Netanyahu is bringing to the Israeli government.
Turning now to Israel, where its parliament voted yesterday to enact the first in a series of controversial judicial bill reforms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's planned judicial overhaul has sparked months of protests. The controversial new law passed Monday limits the power of Israel's Supreme Court to overturn government decisions. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is following the latest from Tel Aviv. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning. Well, it's a quiet day in Israel for a change today. The country taking stock after weeks, as you mentioned, of unprecedented protests leading up to Monday's vote.
A fresh wave of anger and disbelief after the law passed yesterday, curbing the power of Israel's Supreme Court. Thousands of protesters couldn't quite believe it had actually happened.
This is my country, and Bibi kidnapped our citizen, and it's not supposed to be. We need to be here. I serve in the army. I have 3 little boys, and I want to continue to stay in my country.
As night fell, a car barreled into a group of demonstrators, injuring 3. And the police used water cannons to disperse crowds blocking roads.
You think people that, face an extreme form of fascism would not want to delve into fascism, but no matter where you go, there are going to be far-right fascist groups in a nation, and if you don't deal with them harshly, this is what happens. They gain power, and they start to take over the government and use it for violence.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to the nation last night, calling his reform a necessary democratic step to restore balance. But
a democratic step to restore balance by removing the Supreme Court from being able to say no to whatever Benjamin Netanyahu wants.
Opponents argue it's done just the opposite, leaving virtually all power in the hands of the Prime Minister, who's facing corruption charges, and his right-wing and religious allies.
Both those who supported this and obviously those who were against it are in shock.
Political analyst Barak Ravid says the economy has already taken a hit and a brain drain is coming.
I'll give you an example. Just in the last 24 hours, 1,000 doctors, physicians, entered into a WhatsApp group that is called Relocation.
Today, doctors with the Israeli...
And yeah, that is the thing with fascism. The stronger fascism takes a hold of a nation, the bigger the brain drain happens as the intelligent, non-fascist people flee the nation out of fear of being killed. Same thing happened with Nazi Germany. They killed off a lot of the intelligent people, and anybody else, because they just didn't like who those people were. And it caused them a lot of problems.
The Medical Association have already called a 24-hour strike. And have a look at this, another very public gesture. The leaders of Israel's very powerful and wealthy, thriving tech sector bought this kind of ad space in almost all the newspapers, just a black square, and the only text says, "A dark day for Israel's democracy."
Certainly
Wendy?
a big statement. How widespread were the protests last night, and are they going to continue today?
Well, as I said, it's quiet today. Last night, people were camped all around the Knesset, and that's in Jerusalem, and there were large groups in other cities. On Saturday night, over the weekend, 500,000 people were on the streets. And of course, before that, there were weeks of protests, huge march, tens of thousands of people walked from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So this has been a rolling protest, growing bigger and bigger and culminating in those crowds over the weekend leading into yesterday.
And it's not like the government can fight every single one of these people or throw them all into jail. What are they going to do? Create a concentration camp?
Prime Minister Netanyahu said after the vote yesterday he's hopeful the ruling coalition government will reach an agreement with the opposition over the judicial overhaul. Do you think that's realistic?
Very hard to tell right now. There's so much anger and bitterness. There are no talks going on at the moment. The Knesset is about to go into summer recess, so there won't be any legislative activity. So maybe this is also going to turn into a cooling off period, and we could see some sort of an attempt to find a compromise on the next stage of judicial reform, and that has to do with how judges are appointed, which will be completely politicized. On the other hand, this may be a chasm that won't be bridged, and we're just going to have to wait and see till the fall.
What are Israelis saying that you have spoken to? What's their mood?
Well, the ones who supported these reforms feel as if they've been vindicated. They voted for this right-wing and religious party. It's a coalition, fairly fragile one, but it did hang together through this contentious period. The majority of Israelis, according to all the polls, were very much against this move. And they are profoundly saddened and worried. They watched the stock market take a hit yesterday. The shekel devalued. And a lot of the investors are saying they're out. They're going to take their money and set up elsewhere because they feel as if a period of instability is coming, especially if the Army reservists refuse to serve under this government. And as you know, money above all likes stability. So this could really deliver another serious blow to the economy. People are very nervous.
Yeah.